Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Okay, Hebrews, I want to do this little video, man, about how the Sephardis been tricking folks for a long time. I'm talking about for a long time, and people believe in the history that they've been presenting to the world on Israelite history, but I'm here to tell you that it's all false and it's all wrong. And it's been a great deception going on since the Israelites broke the covenant. And what allowed these peoples to practice the deception is when the Creator withdrew his face and his presence from the Israelites after the covenant was broken during the Babylonian wars, because we Israelites were on the land up to the Babylonian wars, and our enemies that was placed in our land, the Babylonian scribes, didn't get a chance to take our history long as we was there. But when we ran off, and then the Creator turned his back from us, because we got a sentence and a punishment to go through, that our enemies took control of the heritage that we abandoned, and they've been telling lies ever since. Now this is the thing, as I have documented in other videos, how the Amorites were the founders of Babylon, as well as the people that we were supposed to get rid of coming out of Egypt, going into Canaan. That was one of the things that the Creator told us, to get rid of the Canaanite culture. The Hittites, the Havites, and all Canaan kids. We had to get rid of them, because it was the Canaanite culture that was causing the earth to sin. The Canaanites' wickedness is outlined. The Canaanite wickedness is outlined in the scriptures, in the things that the Canaanites did. The Creator pointed it out. But this is what I want to go into. I want to talk about the deception after the Israelites broke the covenant and ran into Africa, how we abandoned our heritage to some Babylonian scribes, some Amorites. And this is what they been lying about. They've been lying, first of all, overall, the whole history been a lie. But this is the thing. The Jews do have a history. And the history that they try to pass off as Israelite history would be the Amorites' activities and voyages and going to places and setting up shop. You see, because the Amorites became the Israelites, by their documentation. The Amorites took over the Israelites' heritage, and that's the great deception, in how that the Sepharvaim, who are the Sephardis, were connected to the Phoenicians, and how Syria was their home. How Syria was their home. Ancient Syria was their home, as well as Lebanon. Lebanon right there. Syria, Lebanon, all of this is going to be a Amorite holdings in ancient days. Right now, today, they say that Syria and Lebanon is the same. And then there was a time, I think, during the Ottoman Empire, is when that Lebanon was separated from Syria, and how that was considered one landmass. And sometimes our enemies be doing stuff strategically, and like I say, they be having plans for hundreds of years before we recognize what's going on. But anyway, how that the people in in Lebanon and Try is going to be one of its ancient cities, and how that's where the Phoenicians were, and how the Phoenicians and the Amorites were basically the same, and how that the all the ancient tribes besides the Israelites, and we supposed to have resisted them, and we eventually got tricked out the promised land, and then ran into Africa. But how that the Amorites absorbed all the ancient tribes, like Hittites, Havites, Perizzites, all of those peoples, the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites. Edom become a sub branch of the Sephardi Amorites, the Amorites, and that's where your term Semitic come from, because they're mixed with all the ancient tribes and so forth. But how that the Phoenicians were part of a subgroup of the Amorites, and the Philistines is synonymous with Amorite also, and how that the Amorites was the chief peoples in the promised land when we come out of Egypt to destroy them. But how that the Phoenicians and the Amorites was already one, and how that the Phoenicians already had been sailed around North Africa, and had control of the Mediterranean Sea, and then how that they would go to Spain, and Portugal would be one of their main outposts. That would be one of the main Phoenician Amorite outposts. And what we have to remember is that the Amorites and the Sephardis are one and the same. And this is how they trick folks, is how that, it's this one Jewish person named, let me see what that individual name, and he real slick. He a slick fox. And his name is Henry Aberson. And how he'll try to say, the crypto Jews, and what the Sephardic diaspora and so forth, and how he'll try to slick explain away how did those Sephardi Jews come to Spain, and and they try to say that Sephard come from Spain. But we can show that Sephard is an ethnic pointer term, and that it existed before Spain and Portugal even had a name, and how that the name Sephard go all the way back to Babylon and Sippar, man, among the Euphrates, and how that the word Sepharvaim translate into Sephardi now. And we know that the Sephardis was placed in Samaria in 722 BC. And then they stayed in our heritage up to we Israelites ran off, and then they would take control of the whole heritage. And then after being in our land for so long, that even their descendants and the people would think that they was Israelites, after having our heritage for, I got it calculated as 2,740 years. So now, if they got control of the Israelite heritage that long, and then they having descendants, and they teaching people this, and they teaching people that, then that's a great deception. And I want to show that the history that they show, you can't trust and believe in. Even though the Jews went to Spain, but how did they try to present it off as an Israelite diaspora, and how did the Israelites was in these places? No, those were the Sephardi Jews, the people that the Israelites abandoned their heritage to. And it's like it's a lot of Hebrews get confused, with the Jews that was in Spain, because they had pigmentation. I already explained how that our heritage fell into the Edomites' hand, and how that the Edomites went over into Africa, and how the Edomites would have pigmentation, you know, especially mixing with the Ishmaelites and so forth, but how that they would be, you know, absorbed into the Hittite, Amorite confederacy too, but how that the Edomites, you know what I'm saying, man, was a subgroup of those folks, and then how that, you know, them peoples, man, went to Spain, you know, from the promised land, and then how that after we Israelites abandoned our heritage and went into Africa and left everything to them, and how that they would go all down into Saudi Arabia and into Africa, and how they had pigmentation, and then how that it wasn't be nothing for them to have pigmentation in Spain, because that would be the Sephardim, the pigmented branch of the Edomites and Sephardis, and then Israelites would be confused about them, calling them Morenos and thinking that them was Israelites. And man, I could pull up a few videos showing that the Israelites believing that the Sephardims and the Sephardis that was in Spain were Israelites because they had pigmentation and such, and they're not knowing real history. But them folks been deceiving people for a long time. And then this what I want to show Hebrews is how that when they went to Spain, see, this what a lot of people don't know, that it's been a proxy war going on for a long time since we Israelites abandoned our heritage to the Sephardis, to the Sepharvaims. Since we abandoned our heritage to the Sepharvaims, and we was chased out the promised land by Ashkenazi, well, them two groups been having proxy wars. They've been having proxy wars, and basically all the history that exists today can be, you know, if it's categorized right, it can, you know, show that all the stuff, you know, come from them, you know, in they proxy wars. You know, that's like the Catholic Church. You know, a lot of individuals from false history think that the Christianity started, man, amongst, you know, the people in Turkey from the Byzantine Empire, and how Constantine in 332 BC supposed to have hooked Christianity up. But that's a lie. That's a lie. And whenever you read history, it's basically a lie if it's not coming off the Israelite history and heritage, and us, you know, explaining it, you know, coming from our, you know, ancient days, you know, to now. You know, it's going to be a lie because the groups be trying to cover their history up. But look here, Christianity started in Scythopolis among Ashkenazi. And then look, if I could show a kinship between Ashkenazi in the Catholic Church and Christians, then you know that that will be the problems that the Sephardi Jews will have with the Catholic Church and so forth, how they was forced to convert out of their Judaism heritage, and how Ashkenazi was slick making them convert out of their heritage into a Christian heritage that they created. It's like putting them in the empty box and so forth. But how those Jews would be slick and would practice their heritage, and then they would get on down and get on over here to South America and so forth and set up shop, and then be in the jungles hiding with their Judaism from Ashkenazi. And then we know Ashkenazi gonna come right behind them. You know, wherever the Sephardi groups go trying to run and hide from Ashkenazi, Ashkenazi finna come right behind them, and that be the wars and the destructions in the natives' lands, is because the Sephardis be done took off and ran, and Ashkenazi be right behind them. You know what I'm saying? And then that's the same way and how, you know, North America was took over. You know, the Sephardis would come in with the trade and so forth, and then Ashkenazi would come right behind them, and then you know the whole story. But that's been an ongoing game for a long time. And then I want to show that Ashkenazi had the Catholic Church. the Catholic Church, and that the Catholic Church, you know, that the Catholic Church was a part of a Ashkenazi like creation. That's like a lot of people think that the first that that the first Christians was in the Turkey and so forth. The first Christians were in the Discopolis cities. The Discopolis cities is what Ashkenazi controlled. You know, the Discopolis cities. You know, let's see. You see Scythopolis right there. Scythopolis. But you know, it was this the thing. Scythopolis was on the right side of the Jordan, where all the books at, where Samaria was at, and then where Jerusalem was at, and where Bethel, where we had the books, and then the rest of the Discopolis cities was on the other side of the Jordan and so forth. And then that would be Ashkenazi whole territory. They control the whole Discopolis cities, and then they was something serious because they was warriors. And then, you know, they people's gonna be the Greeks and the Romans and all those people that is descendant from Japhet's descendants and so forth, and how Ashkenazi was settled in the promised land during the Babylonian wars under the name Scythian, and how did they settled in ancient Beth Shan, and then how did they would have the main bishops and the main people that created Christianity and got Christianity started. That's like Scythopolis, Scythopolis, the Scythians, Ashkenazi had a seas. You know what I'm saying? And the Dissocies of Scythopolis, you know, they had a seas, and then they had the main bishops that created Christianity, and how Christianity in the New Testament was before they put what they put together in Turkey by Constantine, and how that the bishops been running to Scythopolis, kicking it with the Scythians who had settled since the Babylonian wars. And then they got a whole bunch of bishops that's, you know, known, and then the Romans hooked them up under that Roman province of Palestina Secunda. You know what I'm saying? Set up in the 4th century was with Scythopolis as the capital. You know what I'm saying? That's something serious right there. They show you that the Roman church and the Roman hookups had everything to do with Ashkenazi. That's because Ashkenazi gonna be the first Christians and the first people to believe in Jesus and look at Jesus as a demigod. I already explained how that the Edomites tried to trick Ashkenazi. How the Edomites tried to trick Ashkenazi by sending its groups out of Egypt, out of those mystery schools, and sicking them on Ashkenazi, and how Ashkenazi would take that and turn it into a religion. That's like they sent Jesus out of Egypt to try to get Ashkenazi up off Judaism. You know, the temple existed, and Jesus wanted to bring Ashkenazi to the temple, but the rest of those Edomite rabbis wasn't having that. So Ashkenazi, through the Roman church, had the whole temple burnt up, and how Ashkenazi had the synagogues. Man, they had over 300 synagogues wrapped around her church, but Ashkenazi would be in the Discopolis cities, and then its bishops. Man, it had some of the most serious bishops. Man, it's like the Bishop Paterphilius of Scythopolis was an intimate friend of Arius. Arius is gonna be the dude who got the whole Christian thing started by saying that Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit are separate, and then how did they got it, you know, they mischief together in Turkey, you know what I'm saying, under Constantine and so forth, and how that, you know, they banned this dude, but this dude took off. The one who started Christianity and got it started took off to Scythopolis, and kicked it, you know what I'm saying, there, and then he was welcome in Scythopolis. And look here, and you see in 323 BC, a supporter of Arianism took part in the first Council of Nicaea in 325 BC. So all the people that will go to the council and make a difference with what Christianity will be come from Scythopolis, and then that's going to be a Ashkenazi holding. As you can see today, the Ashkenazi and the Catholic Church go hand in hand, and wherever Ashkenazi go among Christians, man, that they are right, and how did the Christians look up to Ashkenazi as the holy people? Well, they've been trying to get rid of the Sephardi Jews and been fighting against them a long time, trying to erase them off the map with having an Israelite heritage. And that's what the religions come about, because when Ashkenazi got on those Sephardi Jews, they took off. They took off, and then some of them even took off into Arabia and so forth, where they would wait and then put them a religion together. And then, you know, Islam, and then how that they would take back over the places that Ashkenazi took from them. And Spain would be one of the places. You see, one of the places, and then how that this little proxy wars will be going on up to now. Well, basically, Ashkenazi control the show now. So, you know, they done defeated the Sephardi Jews. But I believe that the Sephardi Jews got a little plan left for Ashkenazi, to where that the Sephardis might recognize us real Israelites as being the real Israelites, to destroy Ashkenazi. You know, they can destroy Ashkenazi overnight, even though, you know, Ashkenazi been beating the Sephardi groups up and then took the heritage, the Israelite heritage from them, and how the Sephardis can recognize us real Israelites. You know what I'm saying? And that'll change the whole show. That'll be like they getting back at Ashkenazi for whooping on them all this time. And then how about this, Hebrew, that the Jew that I was showing you that's real slick, how about he gonna confess that it's no 10 lost tribes? And but he got real quiet, and he got on the subject, and then he got off of it real quick. And then how he say that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, but he couldn't explain what happened to the Israelites. And after the Babylonian Wars, he never mentioned how they went into Africa, and how he know, because I've been posting on his site, and how he been blocking my comments and so forth. And you can only do that if you got control of the YouTube station, and then, you know, it's his site. So he been blocking my comments, showing how that they ain't the Israelites, and how that the Sephardis, who are Sepharvaims, got the Israelite heritage. You know, and then maybe he'll stop telling some of these lies and so forth. But look here, look, Ashkenazi would take over the and create Christianity. You know, they got scribing abilities too. Ashkenazi got scribing abilities too, and they had control of Babylon through Chaldea. So they would be educated, have an educated branch of they peoples that did books and studied it, and then were scribing and so forth. And then how that they would, you know, try to get control of the Israelite heritage. That's like this right here. If you know what I'm saying, if you look at this, look, the Sephardic ideal has always been understood in terms of political moderation and community unity. Rarely did Sephardim lose their internal cohesion, that is, until the process of cultural erosion set in. Following the Ashkenazi lead, Sephardim abandoned their traditional culture and adapted to the fractious Ashkenazi model. Under the rubric of a single Jewish nation, the Sephardi, particular with its cultural genius and sophisticated social morals, has become a lost value. The Ashkenazi culture, with its deeply unsettled relationship to the larger world, has now become the Jewish standard. You know, check this out. How about the Sephardis It is so cold because they go back all the way to Sippar, and they are the inheritance. They are the inheritors of the Sumerian, Akkadian empire, and then how that they would have all that administrative skills and so forth, and then that what created the Western civilization and Western culture as we have today is because the Sephardis come from Sippar, and Sippar is a nation that was a nation on the Euphrates that was real serious. Now all this is founded by Amorites. All this is founded by Amorites, Sippar, and then there goes Sippar right there. And then how about Sippar is where the Sepharvaims come from, and the Sepharvaims was placed in our land in 722 BC, but how that they had been around since the Sumerian and the Akkadian empires, and how they had thousands of years of administration. That's like our tax system, and how they tax, and how they got contracts, and how they sell, and how this whole capitalist system is modeled after them in their creation. And that's what the Creator wanted us Israelites to destroy, because it creates suffering, and man, all the wickedness gonna come from the culture that they create. And then how about them people was settled in Samaria in 722 when we Israelites were on Egyptian religion? Let's look at that real quick. You know, the Sephardims, they're Amorites. The Sepharvaims are Amorites. The Sepharvaims are Amorites. And the Amorites are the founders of Babylon, and the founders of Sippar is where the Sepharvaims come from. And the word Sepharvaim covers Sephardi, Sephardic, and Sephardim. They're Canaanites. That's like Henry Abraham. He's a Sephardic Jew, so he's going to be an Amorite. He's going to be an Amorite. He's going to be a Canaanite. So they're going to be some professional liars, and he's not going to tell the truth on the Israelite heritage, because, you know, they've been having the Israelite heritage for a long time, and they done deceived the whole world, you know. And it's like if you go to 2 Kings chapter 17 verse 24. All right, I'll turn right to it. And then you see that word Sepharvaim. Look, and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cutter, and from Abel, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. Okay, those people would be in our heritage all the way up to we Israelites ran into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. I got countless videos explaining how we broke the covenant for Egyptian religion, and how we was tricked out the land, and how we would leave them people with our heritage. We would leave them with our heritage when we went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. Now we know that the Creator turned his back on us, so that would let our enemies feast on our old heritage, being that the Creator say we will get a new covenant. So they gonna take the old covenant and run with it, and bake cakes, and men do the thing with it as they been doing. But they been tricking the world into believing that they are the Israelites and so forth. And this kind of like where all the wrongness is kind of can be traced back to this, because these people will go into a society, a country, a nation, and they'll set up shop, and then, you know, all the Amorite, Canaanite wickedness that we Israelites was supposed to been against, me, they spreading it around in. You know, that's like this here, you know, this is part of part of their trade routes. All right, see, back in the days, and they're called the Canaanites, and then they would do trade. Look, Spain gonna be their main place because they're Phoenicians. They was with the Phoenicians, and the Phoenicians were part of the Amorites, as the Phoenicians go back to Troy, which was part of Syria. Lebanon didn't come about until later on. Let me see this. Let me see if I got this on here, man, about Lebanon. Let's see, the Phoenicians. Look, the Phoenicians try southern Lebanon. Man, I got a part on here that, all right, the Phoenicians is a Canaanite language. All right, no, all right. Look, how about this, Israelites? When we was exiting Egypt in the process of coming into the Promised Land, how did the Canaanites wrote to Pharaoh, you know what I'm saying, to Egypt. Egypt was our enemies. After we done left and the Creator did his thing, to how that the Canaanites wrote to Pharaoh and so forth, during that time, during our Exodus. But the Phoenicians and the Amorites are basically, gonna be the same. And then how that the Lebanon was a part, man, of Syria, and Syria is a Amorite territorial land. You know, let me see that. What's the difference between Lebanon and Syria? Let me see. When did Lebanon separate from Syria? All right, how it was annexed by Turkey in 1939. The French mandated it until 1943. You know what I'm saying? But how Syria and Lebanon gonna be classified as the same land back in biblical days, and how did the Phoenicians come from an Amorite land? How the Phoenicians come from an Amorite land, and then how did those Amorites would go to Spain? And then how it wasn't nothing for the Sephardis to go to Spain when Ashkenazi destroyed the temple in 70 AD. And then that's what happened. And then I showed that Ashkenazi created the Catholic Church, and how all day he was there from the beginning. He was there from the beginning when the Catholic Church was created. Ashkenazi was. And then they would catch up with the Sephardis in Spain, and then do the thing. And then that's another thing. When the Sepharvaims went to Spain, they gonna try to say that the name Sephard come about then. And then it's like how when Ashkenazi, the Scythians went to Germany, which is their homeland, which is part of the Japhet territorial land, and how did they try to say that Ashkenazi come about then. But we know that Ashkenazi is an ethnic pointer term, and how that the Assyrians call Eshku and so forth by their original name, and how Ashkenazi was recognized as Ashkenazi in the biblical days, but how that they controlled the Western culture together, and how that they done deceived the whole world into thinking that Ashkenazi just become Ashkenazi because he went to Germany, when he was Ashkenazi way long in history. And then Ashkenazi is the Scythians. I might even type that in real quick. Ashkenazi is the Scythians. But we know that Ashkenazi had control of the Catholic Church, and then how that the Romans and all them was cool with the Ashkenazi, as well as the Crusaders, and all them gonna come off Ashkenazi. And it's like I've been looking at a lot of the Jews and so forth on Facebook, and how that they hold up Crusaders and Templars paraphernalia and stuff, and they go back to Ashkenazi being affiliated with the Catholic Church from its start, and how about let's see this here. All right, we're gonna type in Ashkenazi, Ashkenazi. Called skinty. Ashkenazi called skinty. You know, that's Ashkenazi name in history. Ashkenazi was first associated with the Scythians. Look, look. The kingdom of Ashkenazi was first associated with the Scythian region. You know, and then they're gonna try to say as they went to Germany, and then that's where they got the name. But Ashkenazi and the Scythian is the same, and then that's gonna be the people that took over the promised land with the Chaldeans, and then Ashkenazi settled in Scythopolis, and then Scythopolis is where all the bishops, the Catholic bishops, Christianity got started. As I have videos showing that Jesus was only sent to Ashkenazi. And I got a couple of videos showing that Jesus was sent to Ashkenazi, and then I show how Ashkenazi had a weed smoking culture and how that they created the bong and so forth, and how that, you know, the whole New Testament miracles is in question because Ashkenazi smoke cannabis and so forth. But look here, how Ashkenazi and the Catholic Church it is kind of like one and the same, and then how that they would send the Catholic Church, the Christians, the Catholic Church after those Sephardi Jews back in the days, and then how that those was proxy wars. That was a proxy war, and then how that the Sephardis would come back with Islam to try to take back over the things, and then, you know, man, it's been going on back and forth, and it's like when Hitler robbed them Jews, he mostly robbed the Sephardic branch of the Jews, and then how like the Karaites and so forth, he didn't bother and was friends with, and not all Jews didn't go to the Holocaust. You know, that how it was a proxy war, and how that Ashkenazi, the Germans had like 20 Ashkenazi practicing generals that was Jewish in Hitler's army and so forth, and that's known history. But I just wanted to show how dude be telling lies, and then how he tried to say that the Sepharvaim, the Sephardis, went to Spain, and then, you know, that they was real Israelites because of their sufferings and so forth. When the Sephardis went to Spain from the promised land, it was just Ashkenazi expelling them from the promised land, getting control so they synagogues can be more important and so forth. And then how did those Sephardi Jews would run across Africa and then go to Spain, and then from Spain they would go to the Americas, and then we know how, you know, that they had their hands in our enslavement and so forth. But you see how the trick is that's a deception, and then this us breaking the covenant during the Babylonian wars, allowing them to have our whole heritage. If you go to Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 15, 16, 17, and 18, it's the whole Israelite nation running into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, and how we never returned after the Babylonians were defeated by the Persians, and we had a chance to come out and be reunited with the prophet Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi, and how we never did, and how we stayed in Africa till the transatlantic slave trade started, and this is us now in captivity. But if you go to Jeremiah chapter 44, and then you get to verse 15, then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelled in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth to burn incense unto the queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the streets of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of food, and, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense to the queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. We thought because the Babylonians was coming up on us, and we was being chased out the land, is because we wasn't in Africa doing the Egyptian religion, is what we thought. And we thought that it was the Egyptian religion that we were supposed to be doing, and how we was confused, and how we been confused, men, about that for a long time. And how that's a deception too, is how that the Israelites believed in the Egyptian religion, a counterfeit religion, and how we went into Africa to worship it caused the transatlantic slave trade, because the Creator had already set the curses out. And then when we went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, we had abandoned our heritage to the Sephardis that was placed in Samaria in 722 BC. And then when we go into Africa during the Babylonian Wars, like 134 years later, they would have our heritage. They would have our heritage, and we would be gone. And then they could tell the whole world that they was Israelites, as they been doing. And then if you listen to some of the lectures and speeches that Henry Abramson be giving, he's a slick fox. He's a slick fox. And man, he, try to explain the Israelite heritage away. And he wants you to think that the Sephardis are the Israelites. And I'm telling you, this been an ongoing deception. And then the Creator even said this right here to Prophet Abraham. And sure enough, they done come back in about 400 years since they been kicked out. But look what the Creator said right here. If you go to Genesis, this would be Genesis 15, Genesis 15:16. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Well, the Amorites, iniquity never did get full, because we Israelites never destroyed them. We never got rid of their culture, and how did that culture took over the Israelite heritage, and then being passed around the whole world, and the people who then accepted Christianity, Judaism, and all these religions been believing in the Sephardis and the Ashkenazi as the Israelites. That's the iniquity right there, that wasn't full. Meaning they been having the power to deceive. And that's the iniquity right there that's been going on for a long time. Well, it's full now, because we can interpret history and show how these people are not Israelites, and how that they got into our heritage. Now, like I say, they got some slick history, and they'll pull some real serious stuff out on you. But if you know that the 99% of the Israelites ran into Africa during the Babylonian Wars, that that them people can't be Israelites. And that's been the quietest history on the face of this earth. And how I got videos explaining that. I got videos explaining how when the Hebrews went into Africa, how they never returned. And then this is how you know that those people that went into Africa that the prophet Jeremiah was dealing with never returned home, is because you have these prophets that come back from the Babylonian captivity, and how that they never recorded the Queen of Heaven worshipers coming out of Africa. And then I show you that those fruit peoples that come back from the Babylonian captivity, that little less than 1%, how that they was destroyed real fast, and how Ashkenazi was in the promised land, as well as the other enemies, and then the Greeks come in, and the Greeks destroyed the exiles, because I showed, in other videos, how the Ptolemies and the Lichamus that was Greeks were claiming Israelite heritage. Man, it's messed up, Hebrews, and we can get this straight. We can get this history straight, because we do have the Tanakh. And that's like I explained, that even though they done translated it over and over, that the history is still there of how we broke the covenant, and the major players in the Israelite heritage, the people that consume the Israelite heritage. Hebrews, we got to wake up, because time is getting short, and our enemies is trying to usher in a system that is going to be hard to get off and up under, this one world, new world government. And that how if they get control of the whole earth and have control of all its governments, then man, we're going to be in trouble. And then how we need to start showing these people how we are the Israelites, and how that they are not. And then how we have to come into heritage. We have to come into heritage. And then we're going to come into heritage anyway, because the Creator say so. And then the Creator say that our enemies going to have to bow down. They know the scriptures in here. They know the scriptures better than we do. The rabbis, because they've been studying our heritage since the time that we broke covenant, and how they've been trying to portray to be Israelites. So, they know the whole history. This is what the Creator say, what I'm saying, to us. And our redemption gonna come about, because we can't stay, what I'm saying, we can't stay in captivity like this forever. Our enemies ain't finna keep us locked down like this forever, and that the Creator do have a plan for us, because he want us to be his priestly nation still. All nations gonna have to come to the Creator through us, and then that's what our enemies don't want. Our enemies don't want us to have a new covenant, as Prophet Jeremiah said what would happen. If you go to Jeremiah 31, let's see. Behold, the days come, said the Elohim, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break. All right, now check this out. If we done broke that covenant, and then the Creator said that he gonna give us another covenant, not like the one that, what I'm saying, we had, but that we'll get a new one. See, our enemies got the old covenant and got it on lock, and it's hard for us, man, to recapture what we done lost. It's impossible. So the Creator giving us a new covenant, and that new covenant gonna be in exposing them folks as being not Israelites with the old covenant. All right, behold, the day is come, said the Elohim, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, said the Elohim. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, said the Elohim. I will put my law in their inward parts, and will write it in their hearts, and will be their Yah, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more every man his brother, and every man, what I'm saying, every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, know the Elohim, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, said the Elohim, for I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sins no more. How about that it's a people now, sins greater than ours? At the time that we was on the promised land, before we abandoned our heritage to those Amorite Sepharvaims, that we was real evil and wicked, and how that we was robbing and we was killing and we was stealing till we was driven off the land. And then them people got control of our heritage. And then we ain't had it since. Alright, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. You know, that deception about those folks, you know, being Israelites can be seen now. You know what I'm saying? That's like this. If you go to 2nd Chronicles chapter 17, verse chapter 17, 2nd Chronicles chapter 17, and as you read down, you'll see that they was trying to do the things that they was doing in Samaria. Look, so they feared the Elohim and made unto themselves the lowest of them priests of the high places, which sacrificed for them in the places, in the houses of the high places. They feared the Elohim and served their own gods. That's like now, how they'll practice our heritage and then still do some other Babylonian stuff. But as you read down, look, so all these nations feared the Elohim and served their graven images, both their children and their children's children. Now that's 722 when they was placed. Now let's go to 715, 7 years after they was placed. 7 years after they placed. Now they gonna be the strangers. They gonna be the strangers that was placed in Samaria. And then if you go to Second Chronicles 30, and then you're reading about Hezekiah, King Hezekiah, how all the tribes were still in the land. This is in 715 BC, 7 years after those Sepharvaim was placed. And then as you read down, and then you get to verse 25, and this King Hezekiah trying to get everybody to come to the Passover. And then it go, and all the congregation of Judah with the priests and the Levites, and all the congregation that come out of Israel, and the strangers come out of Israel. Let me see, and the strangers that come out of the land of Israel and that dwell in Judah rejoice. That's gonna be them. That's gonna be the Amorites and them folks in our heritage, practicing our heritage. And then when we get driven out during the Babylonian wars for fooling with the Egyptian religion, because we never got off the Egyptian religion nothing but for 31 years, and that was under King Josiah. You know, King Josiah was King Hezekiah's great-grandson, and he was a prophecy king that was prophesied to clean the Egyptian religion up, and he did. And then the Egyptians would kill him, this Egyptian right here. And what a coincidence how they got this Egyptian in the United States. The one that killed King Josiah, they got a statue of him, and he's called Necho. That's Necho. He killed King Josiah, you know, and then put us back on Egyptian religion. He the reason why we went to Egyptian religion and was driven off the promised land is because he, you know, put us on that, you know, after he killed King Josiah. And then that obelisk was in Egypt and on Heliopolis when we went into bondage, under the pharaohs when we went into bondage. And they got that in Central Park. How about this, Hebrews? Check this out. Now this show you how serious it is. How about this here? Did they say this here? America unearthed ancient Egyptian relics discovered in the USA. Now what did the Creator say? Now what did the Creator say that he was going to do to us Israelites? What did he say that he was going to do to us Israelites if we broke the covenant? We know what he said, because he said this. And the Elohim shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwoman. And no man shall buy you, meaning nobody can redeem you. Nobody will be able to redeem you. And we in this Egypt right now, as I showed that they got the main, most important relics. Necho, who killed King Josiah. And then they got the that Cleopatra needle is what they give it that name, but it's older than that. The Cleopatra needle is what it's called. Okay, that image of Necho, he killed King Josiah, both of the images in New York, but that Cleopatra, she wasn't even around when that obelisk was created 1,000 years before she was born. You know what I'm saying? And them two evil images represent our enslavement here in the Egypt in bondage. And that's what, the Creator said, we will be taken to. And all right, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. I think I done showed how the Sephardi's, when they went to Spain, how they wasn't done nothing but chased by Ashkenazi, and then how that the Sephardi's wasn't nothing but the Phoenician Amorites, and how Syria and Lebanon is where Tyre is, and how that there was an Amorite holdings, and how that the Amorites sailed from the sailed all around the Mediterranean and been doing trade and having trade up in these lands, fooling with the Europeans, and that how that the Amorites are the founders of Babylon, and then how that they will get into our heritage after we was chased out the promised land, and then I showed that the Egyptians had a correspondence with the Canaanites, even after we exodus, that they had a correspondence, and that how all them folks would be responsible for our troubles. That's like now today, they think we Israelites ain't gonna never wake up. We gonna wake up. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Wake up, Hebrews. We got to stop being deceived, and how them folks been deceiving folks on our heritage. Like I proved that the Sephardi, the Sephardi ain't nothing but the Sephardim. And the Sephardim and the Sephardic ain't nothing but Sepharvaim. And Ashkenazi code name in history is Scythian. And they settled in Scythopolis. And they made the whole Christian Catholic Church. They put it together. Now Ashkenazi is cold. But the Sepharvaims is even colder, because they would come back and get in the Catholic Church and cause division, and then outspring all the other groups, Baptist, Protestant, Methodist. That was Sephardi way of breaking the Ashkenazi men control up with the Catholic Church, and how it had a monopoly, and then how the confusion come about is because the Sepharvaim's gonna be behind the doors, busing the Ashkenazi Catholic Christian Church that had a dominance, what I'm saying, on everything, and then how the division would come about. That's gonna be because there's gonna be a Sephardi payback, getting in there and influencing them folks, and then causing division. See, you people don't know what's been going on, and how it's been a proxy war just about with all the wars and all the divisions in history in the Western culture gonna come off them two groups fighting over the Israelite heritage. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood.